This is Iowa explained for the non-Iowans out there. Iowa is not a complicated place, but it can suck. And it can also not suck. We're gonna talk about both in this video. Now, I'm generally a pretty positive person, so let's start off with the things that it doesn't suck at. First off, affordability. Yes. If you're doing any kind of research on moving to Iowa, you're probably noticing a lot about the affordability here in the state of Iowa, and it is one of our best features. Iowa consistently ranks below the national average on cost of groceries, cost of homes, cost of all sorts of different things. And it's a big feature here. For example, the state of Iowa median home price is around $220,000, which is incredibly affordable when you compare it to other states. And not only that, but the cost of food prices here in the state is well below the national average as well. So if you're moving to the state of Iowa because of affordability, it is one of the reasons why the state of Iowa doesn't suck. Another reason why Iowa doesn't suck is the 4 seasons that we have, and specifically the spring and the fall time. Both of these are 2 of my favorite seasons. In the spring, we get those gentle rains, the warming up after winter has hit, and it's just awesome to see all the flowers coming up and seeing everything come back to life. And then my all-time favorite season is in the fall, which is what we're at right now. And I love it because the temperatures are cooling off after the summer. The days are getting cooler. They start out cool in the morning and warm in the afternoon, and the leaves are changing colors. It is absolutely one of my favorite seasons, and it's definitely a big reason why I think Iowa doesn't suck, because of the fall and the spring weather patterns that we have right here in the state. Now, Iowa is very well known for its ag economy, but it's not everything. We have jobs abundant in a lot of different industries. We have manufacturing here in the state. We have tech in the state. We have Google, Facebook, Microsoft. Yes, they do exist here in the state of Iowa. We have insurance, which Des Moines is the insurance capital of the nation, which a lot of people don't know that as well. So if you're coming here for a job, just know it's not all agriculture. There is plenty of job opportunities. In fact, Iowa is ranked number 10 out of all 50 states for the best opportunities when it comes to jobs. So that's another reason why Iowa doesn't suck if you're moving here. And speaking of jobs, one of the jobs that I have, besides being a YouTube personality, is a real estate agent. I'm licensed right here in the state of Iowa, and people call me all the time asking questions about what it's like to live here, where they should live, and helping them find a home. So if you have any questions along any of that, give me a call. My number is popping up down below. I am the one that answered all those phone calls, texts, emails. I love to help you out if you have any of those questions. Contrary to popular belief, Iowa has a ton of entertainment options, especially when you're in one of our cities. Now, right here in Davenport, we have a minor league baseball team. We have the River Center, which brings in so many different types of events. We have the Adler Theater, and that's just here in Davenport. Whereas, say like Des Moines, they have the Wells Fargo Arena, where they have basketball games, they have concerts, they have all sorts of different things that you can do to entertain yourself. And it is a big misconception that there's nothing to do in the state of Iowa, but my take on it is if you're looking for it, you can find it. The state of Iowa has about 3 million people in it, and that includes our cities as well. So if you have that few people with this large of area, what does that lead to? Well, that leads to low traffic and low traffic jams. It is a huge benefit of living in Iowa, because even if you're living in a larger city in the state of Iowa, the traffic jams are pretty minimal. Yes, they do still happen, but overall, you're still moving in most of these situations. You're not at a standstill. And when the traffic jams aren't around, you're about 15-20 minutes from just about anywhere, especially when you're living in a city like Davenport. I can speak to it frequently because this is where I'm at right now. And I can tell you, if you start in one end of Davenport and go to the other, it's not going to take you any time at all because the traffic is so minimal here. Now in life, whenever you have the good, you also have the bad. And that's what I'm here to talk about when it comes to the state of Iowa. So what are the bad things when it comes to Iowa? Or maybe the things that aren't just quite as good? Well, I talked about this one in the pros, but in the cons is also our weather. Yes, I talked about the good things about our weather. I'm specifically talking about the spring and fall there, but the bad parts are the summer and more specifically, the winter, because during the winter, we get super cold temperatures. We get snow pretty much all winter long, and it's a long season that you have to deal with. Along with that snow and cold, you get a lot of darkness because the sun goes down earlier and doesn't seem to ever want to come up. And a lot of times the weather is pretty cloudy during the winter as well, so we don't get a ton of sun. So if that's a problem for you, just know that our winters are very much like that. But that's actually not my least favorite season personally. My personal least favorite season is actually the summertime. I cannot stand the heat that we get here in Iowa. And it's not really just the heat necessarily, it's more about the humidity that we get. Now, Iowa is smack dab right in the middle of the United States without any oceans or big lakes around, so you wouldn't think that we'd get a lot of humidity. Now, the reason we get so much humidity is actually more about the fields and agriculture that we have around the state, specifically the corn and the soybean fields. They, as the plants are growing, are emitting a ton of liquid up into the air, and that comes around to us as humidity, which holds all of that heat and never really dissipates. Whereas if you're living in the high desert, that heat will dissipate a lot quicker because the moisture is just taken away so quickly. And we may get those lower temperatures, but the heat stays around because of all of that moisture. Now, something to note about Iowa is the distances that you're gonna be having to drive. And not so much really the distances within the city that you're living, but if you want to go from one city to another or one small town to another, you're gonna be driving quite a bit. That's just how the state of Iowa is laid out. I remember growing up in a small town, and when we would have to travel to go play our sports games, we would be traveling for quite a distance. I remember sometimes where we'd be traveling 1 to 2 hours just to go and compete with another school. So just keep that in mind when you're moving to the state, that you are going to be traveling a lot of distance when you want to travel anywhere. Now, again, if you're in the city, you're not necessarily having to travel long distances, but if you want to go anywhere else in the state, just be prepared to travel a lot. And sticking right along with getting around is public transportation. This is a big gripe for a lot of people that move to the state, and it's the lack thereof public transportation. You know, our cities aren't really built for public transportation. We don't really have subways. We don't really have a lot of commuter buses. Yes, we do have them, and yes, we have Uber, and yes, we do have Lyft in these cities, but they're pretty limited. So if you're moving to the state and you want to be able to get around, you're definitely gonna want to have your own personal vehicle, because otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to get anywhere that you want to get in a timely fashion. So keep that in mind if you're moving to the state, that if you don't have a personal vehicle, maybe you should start thinking about getting one. Now, I hear this one a lot when it comes to the geography and the landscape of Iowa, in that it's very uniform, in that basically it is all farm ground. And to an extent, that's pretty accurate. We have flat fields of corn, soybeans, just about everywhere you look. And if it's really the diversity in the landscape that you really like, Iowa is probably not the best choice for you. That being said, we're not 100% all flat cornfields and soybean fields. If you look in the west side, we have what we call the Luss Hills. It's a unique feature that Iowa has that is only in 2 places in the whole world, and that is in western Iowa and China. And on the east side and the northeast side, we have a ton of bluffs, rock outcroppings all over that part of the state. So you do get a little diversity in the landscape here, but overall, it is a lot of cornfields, a lot of soybean fields, and a lot of flat area. So if you're moving here, just know that going in. Now, obviously, I've talked about the agriculture here in the state of Iowa, but it is a good thing, but it also can be a bad thing. And what I'm specifically talking about is seasonal allergies. For me, it comes up in the fall time. The reason it comes up in the fall time is because of all of the farmers harvesting their crop. And when they harvest their crop, it's spewing dust and pollen from the entire summer, getting up into the air. And for me, it gets into my sinuses, and it really wrecks my day. My eyes get super puffy, watery, itchy. It's just a horrible mess of a scene for me. So if you have bad allergies, watch out for the fall. But in the spring, it's kind of the same story. It just doesn't affect me nearly as much. So we have both, and a lot of it's driven by the agriculture that we have around the state. Now, if you're really not sure where in the state of Iowa is best for you, well, my number is popping up down below. I'd love to help you out, find that perfect location for you and your family. And if you don't want to contact me and you just want to watch another video, well, here is another video talking about the state of Iowa.